Well, happy Friday. Good evening and welcome to my micro studio. Just waiting for my guest presenter to show up. Caught in traffic at the moment. Empty seat there. But you're going to have Derek and Jim tonight. And we're going to be chatting a little bit about what's going on in quite a few spheres. As you can see there, it should actually say Scotland demands better up there. But a few promotions. Scotland demands better. Jim will be talking about when he shows up. A few bits where Keir Starmer's involved to sign up for the ID cards and all the rest of it. Oh, or should I say just have them imposed upon us. So what else do we have? Quick note from Dear Scotland. So Jim will be talking a little bit about that. Petitions on the go. Again, Jim will be talking all about petitions. And then direct democracy. Always a good topic. So just to kick off, I'll just put this little bit of web page up. Because on the 25th of this month, Saturday 25th, from 10 a.m, if you get there nice and sharp, there is a trade union march and rally. And it's Scotland demands better. So that will be assembling. If you get there before 10:30, because they'll be kicking off fairly sharp. Here's the route here, so they will be starting just at the Scottish Parliament in Horsewind, and then they'll be winding their way through Edinburgh, and they'll be getting to the Meadows, and there will be a rally until about half past 4 or so. So that's one date not to miss for Saturday. Links are all in the description, and I should just, for clarity, although I have a Salvo t-shirt on, I am not speaking on behalf of Salvo or indeed representing them tonight. So just until Jim shows up, I think really what we really need to start doing now in the run up to Christmas is begin to press the reset button. There's a election coming up, May 2026, Scottish elections. I'm sure most people will be well aware. But what we need to do, as I said, press this reset button. And it's a reset so that we can remind ourselves about exactly what's at stake. And then move on as well, because there's an awful lot more at stake now than there was back in 2014. So we should really view this 2026 Scottish election, parliamentary election, as a plebiscite. Now, a plebiscite election is an election where it is run on one topic. And I would suggest that topic would be independence, nothing less. Every party needs to sign up to that, every independence party. And then we, as a body of voters, must send a majority to Holyrood in 2026. A lot of the smaller parties may get in the list. And just give me 2 seconds and I will just let my co-presenter in the front door. And without ado, my special guest for the evening is Jim Daly with his obligatory bottle of Iron Brew. So I'm just going to let Jim slide into this micro studio. So as I come in sideways here, Jim's just getting his notes out. And he'll be with you in 2 minutes. So as I was saying, yeah, we're going to press this reset button ahead of this 2026 election. So let's go back to the start and start looking about, what's different. Oh, here we go. Here's Jim right here. And if you can, I'll slide down the back of this chair, Jim, in this micro studio.
Yeah, showing my svelte figure here.
Aye. There we go. Well done. Swing yourself around there, Jim. You just got your microphone there. So if you pull that towards you, but just keep the microphone right over that leg that sticks out front, and that way the microphone won't fall over. There we go, stagecraft. Head bottle washer, chef, and all the rest of it. So there you go. Jim is wired for sound. And if you slide right in there, Jim, just put your legs either side of that, and I'll slide you up here a wee bit. There we go. So we are looking good. So I've just been explaining to the audience that we got this election coming up on the 26th, in 2026, April. No, sorry, May 2026, and we're hitting the reset button. So we've got to think about, what is it makes Scotland different from the rest of the UK, or should I say, basically England? And it's the people and our history. I mean, the history of the UK and the migrant sort of situation. It's like we've always been migrants. Way back when the Vikings were beginning to colonise the north of Scotland, they would call this place the Summerlands. And the kind of chief Viking that a lot of the clans come from, they all lead back to this guy called Somerled.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Because these were the summer lands. But that tradition goes way back to almost the end of the Ice Age. So you've got all these migrants coming in, and there's migrants coming in from Anatolia, right across the northern steppes and into Scotland. And they're coming in from the kind of northeast. And then later on, you've also got the Vikings. Well, it was actually the Norsemen, the Normans, and as you know, they came in through Lindisfarne, and that was kind of in the Middle Ages. I mean, I like to call it the medieval ages. Go and bring that microphone right in close to you, Jim. Just slide that. Make sure that leg's pointing right at you. That's it. Yeah.
How's that?
And then we'll just get that pointing directly to your gorgeous coupon. Yeah, so just getting a good sound there for Mike, for Jim. But yeah, so this is Scotland as this land of a mixing pot. So not only do you have these people coming in from the northeast, but way back, they were also coming in as Celts up through Iberia and into Ireland, and then through Ireland they eventually came into Scotland. They all kind of meet in the middle. So there's all these immigrants and migrants coming in, and then south of the border we've got a similar sort of situation, because we've got all these various tribes. So you've got all these tribes that the Romans eventually called Picts, the Votadini, they were all migrants from somewhere or other, and then all these various tribes of all the tribes down what is now England. They were all tribes as well. A lot of them were Celts down in the south. I mean, a lot of people will have heard of Boudica and her tribes, and then there was the Viking tribes coming down from Lindisfarne, and it wasn't until they all consolidated that really in the 820s, the 860s, the 890s, more the 890s, where Scotland became Scotland. And then a few hundred years later, you had these Norse tribes and Norman tribes coming together at in 1066, the auspicious date. So that's when these immigrants all gelled. So we are all immigrants. So yeah, refugees welcome here. And that's what makes us different, and we need to reset ourselves around that. So all these cultures that came in with their diversity and their cultural influence, that's what made Scotland Scotland, and that's why Scotland's such a welcoming country. So reset button, 2026.
And I think what distinguishes us is a more egalitarian and communitarian spirit. We've always had that right back to the days of Robert the Bruce.
Yeah.
Robert the Bruce sealed all his letters as the King of Scots and the community of the realm of Scotland. So that communitarian spirit has been there from the get-go, really, in Scottish national history. You could say it's partly because it's a poorer country, and so people have got to stick together more when you're in that situation. It's a less class-ridden country, I think. There is class, of course, but less so than in England. So I think that is a thread through our history, and that is why we tend to want different things. We've got different priorities to our southern neighbour, and never more so maybe than now.
Yeah. So 2026, it probably makes sense in the strong SNP areas to vote number one SNP, but make sure it's another independent party for number two. Other places like Edinburgh, Western, for instance, where the Liberal Democrats are quite strong, the SNP is not far behind, so it's in the balance whether or not SNP won, other independents too. So in that sort of place, doesn't really matter. But then maybe strengthening the vote would be a good idea. It depends on how things are going closer to the date.
I would say if you support independence, take the region as your unit. If the SNP do well in that region and the constituencies, then you've got to split your vote if you don't want to fill the place with unionists, because they've already got their
Does that split the vote between vote 1 and vote 2?
Exactly.
So which is your constituency, and on the ballot paper, us kind of election geeks and all this, we call it the list because people go on the list, but it's not called the list. It's the regional vote. So on the ballot paper, it will be called the regional vote.
It will be called the list vote, actually.
So there is a list as well. Okay.
The region, just meaning that block, like Lothians, where it's all aggregated together. So you've got the constituencies. Once the constituency votes are in and the MSP's been elected, then you have the same region's list votes counted. So if the SNP have got, say, 30% of the vote in the list, if they're strong in that region, which they tend to be in the central belt, they'll already have had their share. So all of the extra votes are wasted, and with digital ID coming along, which we'll talk about a bit, it's more important than ever that we do not fill the Scottish Parliament with unionists. So you have to split the vote, and as we mentioned last time, you don't need to take our word for it. Go to Wikipedia, look up your region. If the SNP are strong in the constituencies there, have a look at how many list votes they got. That's all you need to do.
So there you go. So that's what to do in 2026. So just at the top of the show, Jim, just as we're coming in here, I'll just flash up this first website here, and it's something you might know about yourself, or you might not be aware of. But on the Saturday, 26th of October, which I spoke about earlier, there is a march and rally happening. So right from the Scottish Parliament, Horsewind, then it'll be going up the usual sort of route towards George IV Bridge, and then it'll shoot over for a rally over at the Meadows, and that'll be till about 4:30. So it'll kick off 10 o'clock sharp, so get yourself down there 9:30, and you can get yourself set up and whatnot, meet your friends and blah de blah, and then it'll be a sharp kick-off. But the link's in the description for that march and rally. So I will just take that one down just now.
It's like a Scotland-wide march, Scotland United affair.
Yeah, well, the event's actually called, because I've actually got in the backdrop here, I've got Scotland deserves better, but it's actually Scotland demands better. So that's leading to the march and rally.
Both deserves better and demands it.
Yeah. And then Jim will be talking about the national ID cards. So I've got a wee bit of an ID in the background there, just to keep our eyes on the prize. I like that sort of that statement, actually. It's quite a nice one, just to make sure we're keeping our eyes on the prize, because 2026 plebiscite and all that. So that was that. You want to just dive into some? You got topic number one. What I'll do is I'll just get our running list up, which I put up here. Once I can get my mouse over to the running order. And so Jim is going to be talking about ID cards, and I'll be highlighting the last paragraph of that particular website. So I'll just feed that out just now, and I'll queue up the next. Website here, and just double check that we're all set to go.
Yeah, that's the one. So this is an article from an Indian journalist. Actually, India have already gone down the digital ID route. So he's commenting on Starmer's initiative. So the alleged benefits of ID cards would be reducing efficiency, eliminating paper, and a big sell point, I think, for Starmer is stopping illegal immigration. But the journalist who's been covering the implementation of digital ID in India thinks that this will be the postmaster scandal on steroids.
Yeah, well, here comes the headline.
Yeah.
So just feeding that headline in there. Digital ID cards will put the UK on a dangerous path. Just ask India.
Yeah.
So what's all that about, Jim?
So briefly, the postmaster scandal played out between 1999 and 2025. Over 700 people who ran local post offices were falsely prosecuted for theft, fraud, or false accounting. Because of this botched system, many of them ended up being prosecuted. Some of them died before they had their name cleared. Some of them took their lives because of it. All because of a system which was inadequately tested and flexibly applied. So that was a particularly awful example of this kind of system which is applied in a hostile way. On a smaller scale, I think we've all been on the end of shoddy IT systems these days, which are window dressing really for reduced service. Systems implemented by many GP practices, I think we could agree, are like that. It will be understaffed, no doubt, and under-tested, no plan B, single point of failure, and it will be used for political control. And I don't know if you've got Leah Gunn Barrett's link there on digital IDs, one I highly recommend people to read, along with this article by the Indian journalist, because they've already done it. So, this guy is very knowledgeable about it, but Leah also is always knowledgeable in anything she writes about. And you can see that Derek's just hit on the key statement. It's not about controlling immigration, it's about controlling us. It will be used for political control. So you're one slip up, you're one bureaucratic glitch away from losing your access to services, and you're also one political misdemeanor in their eyes away from being a non-person. Access to benefits removed, access possibly to banking services removed. This thing is a potential nightmare. So,
my biggest fear with that, Jim, is that because a lot of people will be thinking that it's pulling a lot of services into one, so there's convenience wrapped up in there, or that's the way they're selling it.
That's
as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, it's bad enough letting somebody like Keir Starmer loose with that sort of power in his hands, but come 2029, we're staring right down the barrel of it going into the hands of Nigel Farage and his right wing.
Well, he's pledged to scrap it. So unless we get independence, the price that Scotland will pay for having digital ID scrapped would be a reform government. Obviously, we have another escape route, and that's what we've got to focus on. You could say the only upside, perhaps, of digital ID is it will concentrate minds wonderfully. If we don't get our act together in 26, if people don't vote with a level of maturity this time, rather than just taking orders from the SNP leadership, and that's not a go at the SNP, it's thinking about what we need as people who support independence. If we don't use our vote wisely, then we're going to get a reform government, for the next 5 years. That's what's coming down the pipes, really. Starmer is virtually guaranteed, I think, that Farage will get in. He's going to crater the Labour support in the same way that Kemi Badenoch has cratered the Tory support, and that's gone over to reform. So that's what's coming for us. I think it's something that we need to think about very carefully now. It's been a long time, I think, since the independence movement has faced such a juncture whereby if we vote for another 5 years of the Union, we could be imprisoned in a system which could have a terrible human cost.
So, are you yes yet, folks?
We're probably preaching to the converted, but if you're someone who has in the past thought, through a sense of staunchness to the SNP, 1 and 2, I would ask you to, carefully consider that this time.
Absolutely. So, eyes on that prize. I'll just pop that one down. He says, there we go. And then next up, the next topic is a petition.
Yeah, so we've got the UK petition. So Starmer, I think, is taking a giant dump on all of us here. He's trying to implement something which he doesn't even have a pretense of any popular consent for. So I would urge people, if you haven't already, sign that UK petition, but I would also urge you to, if you can pop up the PE 2135. So that is the petition going through the Scottish Parliament at the moment. I would urge people to sign both of them. If you sign the first one, you're saying you don't want digital ID. But if you sign this one, you're saying you don't want a situation where this can happen again. The politicians cannot impose something for which they've never gained any popular consent. That's what this petition is about. It's about a long-term change in the way that we're governed, so that something like digital ID, Starmer just deciding that he'll go ahead with that can't happen, because even if we manage to stop digital ID, it'll be back. It'll be back in a few years' time. They'll just wait, and then it'll boomerang back. The only way that you can stop this and make it go away permanently is if we have a different model of governance. And then if people want digital ID, fair enough, they can have it. But if they don't want it, it'll go away and stay away. And that's what we need to aim for. So sign one for the short term, see if we can head this off at the pass. Sign the other one to change the game and make sure that something like this, Starmer just making it up as he goes along, can't happen again.
Yeah, so links in the descriptions. There's your first one there, just to recap, and then the second one right there. So take a look at those. And just to recap, for a few people that don't know much about this ICCPR, what it is or correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the ability that within the Scotland Act already that the Scottish Parliament has to implement law that is already EU law. Does that also apply to UN law as well?
It's a UN treaty which enshrines the right to self-determination for all peoples, and it enshrines the right to scrutiny of your government and control of it through things such as citizen-initiated referendums. So it's got two ways of changing the game for Scotland, and respect Scottish Sovereignty have done a lot of work on it. It is entirely within the power of the Scottish Parliament to implement international treaties into Scottish law. It doesn't change the power of the Scottish Parliament, it changes the power of the people of Scotland. In theory we have that. There's always been the concept of the sovereignty of the people in Scottish constitutional history, that this is a modern reaffirmation of it. If we put this into Scottish law, then we have an internationally recognised treaty which enshrines the universal law of self-determination if a people choose it. So this is why it's so important. We can do this now. We need to be doing a lot of things at the moment, I think, because we're faced with a difficult political situation, but this is one of the things that can really change the game. So if you haven't signed it already, I'd urge you to do so and recommend it to a friend who hasn't signed it. The more people we can get behind this, the more pressure we put on the Minister for the Constitution and the First Minister to take it very seriously and implement it before 26. And remember that key point: referendums, citizen-initiated referendums. We then determine our future with obvious implications for independence if the UK government remains intransigent.
Yeah. So what we got next? Just before we move on to the next one, then I'm just gonna. This is just in the run-up to the 2026 election, and we want to break out of this union, but we also want to make sure that we're quite quickly stepping into at least EFTA or something, so we're quite quickly having open markets. Please Google anything to do with anti-free ports. So Google free ports. There's a campaign on the go to stop free ports. So do look up and Google anything to do with stopping free ports, because at the moment that is it will prevent us from even joining EFTA at the moment, because it doesn't comply with the anti-corruption laws that are now in place in in the European Union, and a lot of that was the reason for Brexit, so that they could preserve the money laundering capabilities of the City of London.
We've got to preserve them, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But one thing we really do need to do is back the anti-free ports.
Yeah. Some people are down to the last few millions now, we've got to look after them.
But do have a look out for that and try and get back and get behind that campaign. It seems to get put in the back burner a little bit and forgotten about, but it's so important, especially if we're going to go for like a plebiscite election. We need to make sure the gate is open so that we can quite quickly prosper as a nation.
It's another example of the walls closing in, and Salvo are obviously very good on this. If you check out Salvo's website and materials, they've been following free ports and special economic zones closely. Another person who's very good on this is David Powell, who goes under the name of European Powell.
Yes. And
he does tremendously detailed and brilliant work on just how much sovereignty is being lost to these areas now, and it's basically socialism for the rich. All restraints are off, and we're going to find ourselves hemorrhaging wealth to these free ports and SEZs. So yet another reason why we need to get out and snappy, so that we can stop these and show the way to other places like Wales, who are going to suffer in just the same way, and ultimately to people in England who are going to suffer. I mean, Teesside Freeport is the worst of them all at the moment. I think they were supposed to get seed capital of 25,000 each of the free ports. I think we're running at $500,000 now for Teesside, and it's just free money for corporations that are there. So we need to stop that, as Derek said, so that we can consider joining EFTA. I think that would be a good first stage. There could be a referendum later maybe on joining the EU. There's a lot of turmoil obviously in the EU at the moment, and questions about its future direction, but EFTA would be a staging post where we get trading optimised for Scotland when it's independent.
I'll just quickly flip back to the ICCPR, because that's the kind of thing we can implement. We can implement the ability for the Scottish Parliament to hold referendums on anything whenever it likes, and that is kind of direct democracy, which we're about to go on to speak about. But one of the other things I'm just going to mention, this is direct democracy just about to begin to happen, and it's with regard to Liberate Scotland Party, because any of these candidates getting on the list, especially, they will be able to hold the SNP's feet to the flames and burn them down again too. And these people are all acting on one policy, and it's independence. Independence, nothing less. That's it. But beyond that, they will be acting on the whatever their constituency tells them they want. And so any votes that come up in Parliament, it's like direct democracy. They will be asking their constituency what they need to do on every single vote. Yeah. So that is direct democracy beginning to come in as Liberate Scotland Party members are elected to the Scottish Parliament.
I think again, it's not really a pop at the SNP, because they're no different from the other parties in this respect, but they all pay lip service to listening to their constituents, but in practice they follow the party line. They religiously follow the party line, and I've seen that in work I've done with corresponding with MSPs and MPs. They just copy and paste party HQ material into their emails and send it back. There's no evidence whatsoever of independent thought. An MSP from Liberate Scotland, I think, would definitely set a precedent for listening to people and making up their own mind about decisions, with independence obviously uppermost in their minds. But it's important that Liberate Scotland, I'm absolutely sure that they will, start to model a different system, because our society now is too complex, would you agree, for the kind of democracy we have at the moment. It's not granular enough to change the things that people need to be able to change.
Yeah, we can't just have a parliamentary system where your elected party goes in there, and as you say, things are changing so quickly in life these days that a 4-year period, things change. So you need to be able to directly influence what your parliamentary MPs do from one month to the next. And direct democracies, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the MSPs are there to implement our wishes. They're there to be an executive, a political executive. You've got the civil service, which is a bureaucratic executive, but they're there to implement the wishes of the people. And what they're doing at the moment, all of them, so it's not a pop at any particular party, is implementing the wishes of their party. And that's what needs to change, because if it doesn't change, what you get is digital ID, you get free ports, you get SEZs. Who voted for any of this? Where's the democratic mandate for any of that? There is none, so that is where I think it's important that we have these other independence parties who are leaning into direct democracy now.
Yeah, and there's a few different forms of that as we roll into various elections and stuff like that, and so that's that. And again, this is something that we can implement through ICCPR. So it's a hell of a powerful piece of legislation that's been battered through the Scottish Parliament right now by some very good friends of ours.
Yes, and as we mentioned before, we're getting stonewalled by the SPICE, which is the Scottish Parliament Information Centre, which basically just comes along with a message from our sponsors in Westminster telling us that it's not a good idea to implement this because it would extend the powers of the Holyrood Parliament. It doesn't extend the powers of the Holyrood Parliament. It extends the powers of the Scottish people and enshrines, in a contemporary situation, what we had before, where we had the institution of salvo caducibet, when the people could step in whenever something jeopardised the rights and liberties of Scots. This is what we need now. We need a new instantiation of that kind of democracy in Scotland, and this is the first path to getting it.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting indeed. So what I'll do is I'll just flash up the next bit where we actually get more into the direct democracy and what we're actually talking about. So we'll just put that in front of our gorgeous physics. So this is another website, again, links in the description.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Yeah, this is the Respect Scottish Sovereignty website. So if you've signed a petition and what you've heard tonight, interests you, go along to respectscottishsovereignty.scot and contact us and get involved. The more the merrier.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that we really need to have people out in stalls doing, and spreading the awareness of this, and being able to. It's quite exciting stuff. And then once you get on the stalls and all the rest of it, it's a lovely thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And this stuff is. It's not so much politics. This is a choice of, it's a form of governance.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter whether you're far right, far left, somewhere in the middle. You can use this. This is just a form of governance. It's a bit like, people don't understand, people forget or kind of bypass that. They understand monarchy. They know what that is. And they pretty much understand what a republic is.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other form of governance. There's 5 or 6 you can have a mix of. And at the moment we have an oligarchy masquerading as a democracy.
Yeah, I think that's correct, especially now with the rise of globalism. You have a global oligarchy, slightly tempered, but not very much anymore, by the institutions of democracy, which are increasingly, because of the power of this oligarchy, becoming a facade. So could we go to, I think at the top of the menu, Derek, there's a link to, I think it's governance, just right at the top there. No, I'll tell you what, DD Explained, if you go to...
DD Explained.
Yeah.
So we'll just have a quick look at that.
If you just scroll down, you'll see there's a link to the Swiss Democracy Passport. Now, this is fascinating. It shows the tools. You just went a wee bit above it there. Yeah, that's it, right there at the top. It's a toolbox to inform Swiss and international audiences. It's quite a chunky download. Oh, that was quite quick because of your powerful, your super computer here. Yeah.
Bandwidth.
And what it does, it explains the tools that are used in Swiss democracy. So it's a fascinating read, well worth a download. And if you're going along to party conferences, we hope to have some people who will have real booklets, Swiss democracy passports for you to have a look at. It really is a blueprint for a better future, I think, for Scotland. Obviously, we'll adapt it to suit Scottish culture and Scottish habits and traditions, but it's the kind of granular democracy that is needed now, I think, to take us forward.
Yeah, I'm just scooting through here just now because one of the things that I quite like about the Swiss system is that, as I thought I might be able to see it there, is you have two books when you're going for these referendums, and they're different colours. One colour is for the constituency stuff, and the other one's for the national stuff. So it's very simple. It's the broad brush stuff. It's really easy to know which one's which.
Because they have referendums at the regional level, and I think at the community level, and apparently it's very dynamic at the community level. It's not difficult to get enough people to pass the threshold, and so they can make a real difference to the way things are run at the community level. And they have a lot of power in Switzerland at the community level, and there's regional level, and of course there's national level. And the government can introduce referendums. They think, we want the guidance of the people, and they do, because if they don't, the people won't create their own referendum and knock back what they're proposing. So there's a great incentive there for the government to get things right, because if they don't, they're going to have a big headache on their hands. The people will simply run their own referendum and say, no, we don't want that. So at all levels of government, the people have a shaping power over things. So this will give you some idea of how things work in Switzerland, and start maybe intriguing you as to how it could play out in Scotland.
Yeah, that's a fantastic piece of legislation there. Who says politics isn't exciting? Come on.
For us anoraks, it's exciting.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Or should I say, forms of governance.
Forms of governance, yeah.
Because again, that's a kind of theme that runs right through the whole independence, eyes on the prize thing and all the rest of it. The prize isn't a political prize. It's we're choosing the form of governance. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a people prize, isn't it? It's about bringing things back to the people, because there's an increasing sense, I think, that they've slipped away from people, and with the things that are coming down the pipes that we didn't ask for, we really need to think about this. Even I would. This is a long shot, maybe, because maybe nobody who's in the other persuasion is watching. But if you voted no last time, if you tend to vote for unionist parties, well, there's no unionist parties that I'm aware of that are advocating for direct democracy. But that's the only way out of a situation where laws are being imposed on us. I think most unionists are probably just as against digital ID as independent supporters. So I put it to you, how do we resist bad legislation like that for which there's no popular consent? I think the only way you can do it is via direct democracy, and the only way you start to go on that journey towards direct democracy is with the independent supporting parties. So have a think about it.
Yeah. So anything more to add tonight then?
Well, I was just going to. I saw a photo that amused me of Anna Sarwar. I think if you just Google the following, if you bring up
Yeah.
Google search.
Well, I'll just do that a wee bit in the background.
And if you just type in Anna Sarwar. And Global Progress Action Summit.
Oh.
Progress Action Summit. And then that should, if you click on images, and let's see.
Fingers crossed we'll see
There
it here.
there he is. Second last row, second picture along. That one, yeah.
Okay. Wonder if we can get this up big. Ooh, I've just given him a love heart. Ooh. Oh no! I really didn't mean to do that.
Derek, I didn't know you cared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get this. I'll maybe have to
That'll do. That's
zoom
enough
up a wee bit.
to see the.
What's under there? Right, folks.
So the significance of this, if they can see it, is that this was where Starmer chose to announce digital ID, not in the British Parliament, but at the Global Progress Action Summit.
Yeah.
You know, the meeting of the oligarchs, basically.
Public safety announcement. Make sure you get your welding goggles on because it's coming up.
So here's Starmer hobnobbing it with. So that's Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, and Starmer, of course.
I like that man. He's good.
And behind him, J.B. Pritzker, multi-billionaire and the Governor of Illinois. So Sarwar, as you'd expect, has harumphed a little bit about digital ID because he knows how unpopular it will be. Talked about needing clarity and so on, but basically he's fallen into line with his London masters on it, as he always does, you know, because they are his masters. But here you can see this is the people that Sarwar relates to. The next time this guy is posting about Pakistan's independence and celebrating it, and when he's asked about Scotland's independence and he spouts about the role of Scots in the empire, just get hold of this photo and post it back to him. It would be my suggestion. This guy has no problem with colonisation as long as he's doing it to Scots, as long as he's doing it to the people he's elected to serve. So, yeah, I just thought that was a very telling photo. This is who Sarwar refers to and where he gets his orders from, not from the people he's elected to serve.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, is it all for tonight then, I think, yeah?
I think that's it. Yeah, we've just finally say again, we harp on about it a bit, but people are seeing now, I think, that the walls are closing in, really, for Scotland. The future doesn't look that great if we don't get out fairly soon.
I mean, it's not that,
we're not trying to be doom and gloom.
It's not like that Westminster is a failed, a failing system. It's failed.
Yeah,
we need to get out.
It's failed the people, but the worrying thing is it's not failing according to the criteria, according to the rubric of people like Starmer and Sarwar. This is success to them. You know, the Tony Blair Foundation disciples, they see this as success. They are using their failures to actually implement more repressive.
As long as you can feed the City of London, it's not a fail. But if you're not feeding the City of London, which is most of us,
Exactly, yeah.
It's a monumental failure.
It's a failure to, I would say, 95% of the population, really. The bureaucrats who run the UK now like a colony, including Scotland, which is an even more low status colony, which includes, I would say, people like Sawa. He's just along for the ride, Sawa.
Yeah.
These are the people that are going to be implementing more and more repressive policies on us unless we get out. And that requires a certain amount of maturity now in the way we use our vote in 26. So I'll finish on that note.
Yeah, so there you go, folks. We'll leave you to your weekend. Have a cracking weekend. And
see you in the next one. Yeah.